if you haven't been to marketingleadersconnect.com, we do have a website, and on that website, you can access all current and former events via Eventbrite. We do write-ups after the events, and there's just other great information on there. We also have social media properties. If you haven't joined, please do so. Okay, so this is a networking conference. So if you haven't, this is your first visit here, or if you haven't introduced yourself before, I would love to invite you to just let us know your name, who you are, and what you do. It can, so somebody has to go first. Crystal, since you were here early, would you be so kind as to jump in and introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Crystal Beltran. I am excited to learn a little bit more about the Marketing Connect group. My degree is actually in marketing and advertising, so I thought this was my realm, just like said before, that this is like what you all do. So I'm actually here because I wanted to open up my consulting business, and I wanted to hear some strategies on how to expand on that. So thank you.
Great. Welcome. Great to have you. Thanks for coming today. And I hope you have a lot of valuable takeaways. Great. Anyone else would like to introduce themselves?
Hey, I'll go. My name is Eric Dickman. I'm a fractional CMO located down in Orlando, Florida, and excited to check out the group. First time here.
Welcome, Eric. Great to meet you. And I heard that it's been incredibly hot down there.
It's Florida. It's always hot.
Always hot.
It's been wet lately. That's what it's been.
That's fair. Yeah, that too. That too. All right. Anyone else before we get into the content? All right, let's jump right into it. Okay. So we do have a few slides that Seth and Jeremy will both be making some introductory remarks. If you want a copy of the slides, just let us know. You could email me. It's Karen@08.agency. You don't need a .com or anything, just the .agency. Okay, so today we're talking about navigating budget cuts, strategies for doing more with less. And one of the things that we see as an agency, which is so interesting, we get to peek inside of lots of different organizations. And late last year and early this year, there was something that we'd never seen before. There was lots of organizations that we were either talking to or knew from other, just from working with or had contact with. All of a sudden, there was this like marketing budget cut situation like we hadn't seen before. We talked to people who like they had to cancel all contracts, like down to like their Survey Monkey contract and the Wall Street Journal subscription, like cut all things or like severely cut down their marketing team. But then their goals didn't change, and often they got even bigger. And I've been in the business a long time. I've never seen anything quite like that. It was a little bit of a shock, and we're seeing those companies. There's sort of a bump. So we saw the slowdown, and now they're really coming back in this fall. It seems like things are really, as people are gearing up for 2025. Can't believe we're already talking 2025. Are really gearing up to do a lot more with less, and we have some strategies to do that, and we're talking about that today. So, and just a heads up. Up next, we've got navigating the C-suite will be in October. That'll be a really good one where we've got some C-level executives to talk about speaking the language of the C-suite and helping them to understand marketing. We all know that could be a challenge. Our speakers today, if you've been here before, you've met Seth Bebrock, CEO and founder of 08 digital marketing agency. He's a founder, a fractional CMO, software marketing engineer, built websites for Justin Bieber and Mariah Carey, which is just super cool. Has led a team as a CTO at a social network startup, co-presented at Stanford, and the International Society for Neuronal Regulation Conference on EEG study and consciousness. You've not talked to Seth about neuromarketing. It's a great topic and super interesting how the brain works and how that works with marketing. And he's provided Drupal expertise for Estee Lauder and many other international brands. And I learn something every time I talk to him. Thanks, Seth, for being on our panel today. And we also have Jeremy Sanders, a fractional CFO, with a proven record of establishing cross-functional partnerships that deliver stellar results, agile, strategic, hands-on leader, experienced driving operations with various organizations, analytics, marketing, sales, and business development. Been accountable for budgets up to 130 million, allocating resources to drive organizational profit internationally. Jeremy offers guidance to Navy SEALs, PhDs, and entrepreneurs. I want to circle back on the Navy SEAL thing. I'm super interested in that. Ensuring transition to the business world successful and impactful. He's got a master's of accounting and a bachelor of finance, and has earned recognition as a certified fraud examiner and a registered investment advisor representative. He's also the fractional CFO to OH. So I have firsthand experience that he brings a lot to the table. So Jeremy, welcome to being speaker here today. We're delighted to have you. I know you've got some introductory remarks, and maybe if you want to give any additional color commentary about these slides or about your role before you get going. And thank you so much for being here.
Sure. Thank you, Karen. I thought this would be a good place to start, pipeline, and this kind of question for us to think about. I actually thought of something better to start with yesterday that's directly related to this, and that's Manny, my Uber driver. So Manny yesterday gave me a ride, and it turns out black Mercedes, Manny, what are you doing driving around here? You can make more money over here. He was in between jobs because he's a digital marketer, and there have been budget cuts. And basically what it came down to, our discussion is what's going on, it's pipeline. So the problem when you're talking about budget cuts and when finance leaders and marketing leaders talk to each other, there's this disconnect. What is it that really matters when we're talking about finance and convincing the finance leaders that we need more budget, that we should keep certain things in the budget? It comes down to pipeline. Now, what exactly this means is, finance leaders, they don't get it, right? And so what Manny was experiencing is a lot of companies were basically saying, yeah, we can use ChatGPT and all these other solutions, and we're going to save money, and it's faster. The problem is these companies end up having problems and saying, you know what? It was good at saving some costs. It gave us okay results, but the pipeline, whoa, we don't really know how to manage it with these new tools. And when you're talking about what the finance leaders are looking at, if it's marketing spend of any kind that's delivering sales now, then that's hard to cut, right? But if it's something that's more related to brand, establishing the presence, feeding the pipeline, that's the stuff that people start to say, I don't know, how do we measure that? So it really is both. It's the most important thing to finance leaders. It's just that they don't understand it. And so that's where marketing leaders can really have an advantage, is knowing that the discussion around the pipeline is ultimately where we should be thinking. Slide. So digging a bit deeper into that, marketing, basically maximize market share by filling the sales pipeline. All right, that's a basic marketing mandate. Finance, maximize the net present value by investing when the internal rate of return is greater than cost. It's an investment, right? If you can borrow at 1% and get a 10% return, you're going to do that all day and all night. So the finance folks are saying, okay, is there really a return on this investment in pipeline? We're not seeing it. That's got to go. That's the kind of thinking that they often will have. On the marketing side, it's like, well, we know that we have to invest in marketing because if we don't do it now, next year's going to be terrible. We're not going to, and I've seen this so many times. We're not going to have enough of a foothold, a presence, a ranking, whatever the case may be. And so again, how do we take the goals of marketing and finance and bring them together? And a lot of it starts with a discussion. Slide. So an easy place to start, since we're talking about doing more with less and budget cuts, is to say, okay, well, there's an opportunity here. And I know that's perhaps a bit overly optimistic for some people, some companies, but there is an opportunity there that we can reduce waste, showcase the best, realign growth, encourage innovation, maximize the net present value. So reducing waste, that's one that's potentially tough, potentially easy. But if we're not seeing the results that we were expecting, then it becomes a little bit easier. So we're talking about metrics, showcasing the best. Hey, we did something that worked really well. Let's double down, right? Return on ad spend is 10. Okay, yeah. If we're getting sales today with a return on ad spend of 10, let's do some more of that. Realign the growth. So this year, next year, the plans change. So how can we work together, finance and marketing, so that we're investing in the right type of growth and innovating when we can't necessarily invest because it doesn't exist? And then, you know, this whole idea of the bottom line, maximizing net present value. Very, very simply, what this is saying, look, investments now in advertising, as an example, give us profits now. That's easy. Well, anything we're doing that's investing in the pipeline and the brand, anything that's going to take a while to pay off, we're going to see that next year and the year after. So if we're able to see all of the potential cash flows, all potential profits now and in the future, and put it together, now we're talking the language of finance. So that's where we're going with this. Slide. I've only got a couple more here, but this is probably the most important thing. And I'll just read it out loud because it's that important. For each investment in marketing, we need to show how well it fills a sales pipeline and drives revenue and ultimately profit. So to do more with less, we must first know the goals and the results of our investments in marketing. And so that's the kinds of conversations that we can have with ourselves, we can have with our teams, our companies, and ultimately, if we're looking at the investments, potential investments, investments that might need to be cut or scaled back, these are the kinds of things that we need to be thinking about. Slide. Only got a couple more here. So you've heard me say it, I'll say it again. Metrics matter. Pipeline is pretty close to future profits, you know, going back to that original concept. If you're talking about what matters most to the future of marketing, the future of finance, they're somewhat synonymous. Contributions to the pipeline require those investments. Very simple. If the business does not have much of a market share, it's a dying industry, we're not going to go out and do $1 million campaign to talk about the new horse and buggy model we have out. It's not going to make sense. So we have to invest, and we need to know when and where to invest. So it comes down to metrics. Now, the cool thing about the metrics is marketing leaders know certain metrics that are important. Finance leaders know certain metrics that are important. But knowing where they come together, really it's in that future, the pipeline part, that's the discussion that we need to have more of. Slide. So this is the last substantive slide. So this is where marketing and finance come together, right? So rather than saying marketing versus finance, together, we can maximize the net present value of the company, of the organization, of the brand, the nonprofit's mission. Maximize that by investing in marketing to fill the sales pipeline and maximize market share when internal rate of return equals cost. Just to answer a quick question here, internal rate of return versus cost. Cost is like the interest rate, right? So everybody's heard about the interest rates and the Federal Reserve and what's going on. Internal rate of return is the actual performance of the company. And again, marketing has certain insights based on the metrics relevant to marketing, and finance does the same. So working together is really what this is all about. And the final slide. So I love this quote, and I went through some previous presentations getting ready for today, and this is one that I just had to keep in because it's that important. It's all about teamwork and intelligence. Talent wins the game, but teamwork and intelligence wins championships. So if we're aligned, or at least having conversations, intelligent conversations in a team setting, we can figure it out. The budget cuts it's not something that finance necessarily wants to happen. If we're seeing the results, if we're seeing that there is a positive impact on current cash flows now for any marketing, then it's the job of the finance function to go out and find the money to do more of that. That's an easy one, but it's the future, it's the pipeline where the discussions need to be happening. Thank you.
That's great, Jeremy. Thank you for that. Really good information. You know, somebody that's come from the marketing side, but spend a lot of time around, you know, leadership team tables. Like there's different language being spoken in the marketing for what the analytics are. And I think it's not common in marketing to speak about, you know, net present value or the internal rate of return. But, you know, as you were talking, I was thinking to myself, you know, the basis of any good communications is meeting people where they are. And if finance is holding the strings to the purse, just helping to get our analytics lined up with their analytics so that everyone's telling the same story is so important. Thank you for that. That was great. And I'll have a lot more questions later, but I think that's off to a great start. Switching gears slightly. Okay, so Seth is somebody that runs a company and marketing teams. You know, AI is the sort of elephant in the room, like, oh, can't you just do it all with AI? Don't study. I heard someone say, don't study marketing because AI is going to take all your jobs. And, you know, there's a lot of sort of hysteria around that. I would love to hear your commentary on this.
Sure. Yeah, you know, I like to reference other people's thoughts, you know, kind of just to align with the fact that, yeah, I'm thinking the same way. This guy Barry at Zoom is kind of thinking the same way, that in the next couple of years, AI is gonna kind of come for marketing teams in the way that it's already hit customer support teams. But it's not doom and gloom. But you know, AI is gonna kind of level the playing field, or at least it has the potential to, as far as, you know, expertise, things like that. You know, the company A does an email marketing campaign, and you know, now company B can do it just as well based on the insights. But you know, I think it's more complicated than this. You know, we all thought that SEO was gonna take, you know, take the world by storm, and everyone was gonna do really good SEO. And there's so many people doing really bad SEO still. So the way in which AI shapes the future of marketing, I think won't be quite as sweeping as this guy is saying. But I think one of the points that he makes is really good, that you won't need a big team of operators that are each experts in one channel, because AI can do the heavy lifting. You know, for example, the ads, things like that. And then he predicts that you'll need broad, skilled generalists who can orchestrate AI tools and strategies across all channels. And that kind of aligns with what I'm thinking as well. And what we're seeing in our own agency, you know, things are kind of shifting, and I'm really pushing AI hard with my team, you know, to make good use of it where it makes sense to do so. Let's go to the next slide. So, you know, thinking about who is going to be a great marketer who can also do more with less, which is the topic of this talk. Data-driven decision-making is still incredibly important. Jeremy just talked about metrics and being able to talk to the C-suite with numbers. Of course, there's the attribution, which is more and more difficult these days, but you know, it's not like data doesn't exist and that means we should ignore it and pretend that everything is dark social and we can't measure everything, right? Like that's silly, even though there are people out there that kind of are preaching that message. So being a data-driven decision maker, thinker, strategic thinking, right? You know, AI can automate a lot of things. It can't replace strategic vision. I always say that AI allows you to do bad marketing 10 times faster, just as, you know, just as well as it accelerates good marketing. Creativity and innovation, you know, you can use AI to generate content and ideas, but true creativity still lies with humans. So being able to think outside the box, develop compelling narratives, and find innovative ways to engage audiences. And of course, AI can help you brainstorm, but ultimately you need some training and experience and marketing savvy to really do that. Adaptability and agility. You know, things are changing fast, try to stay abreast, but also, you know, there's a lot you can do just with ChatGPT, like being in the habit. I push my team to be in the habit of using ChatGPT as well as the prompt library that we've developed and continue to develop for our company and for our clients. And you know, having a customer-centric approach, understanding and catering to customer needs, of course, is super important. And you know, you can use AI to gain insight about your customers, maybe come up with messaging ideas or strategy ideas, things like that. But ultimately, it's you know, AI is not going to make you customer-centric, right? Like you still have to be that and embody that. In order to be successful. All right, next slide. Okay, so how do I do more with less? People want the answers and the tools and things like that. Of course, not as easy as it sounds, but here are some ideas, right, that you can think about and prioritize and even chat with AI about if you want a second opinion or second brain to help you make some decisions for your company. So leverage automation tools, you know, do more work now in order to do less work later. Of course, that helps you do more with less. Things like, you know, HubSpot, CRM, all these Zapier, all these automation tools out there that exist. Zapier, I always say that wrong. Get truly data driven. If you're not already, analyze what works, you know. However, of course, data alone can't fix a broken strategy or the foundation. So you need to be thinking holistically about your marketing and the strategy that you have, the messaging, everything. Repurpose. Doing a podcast or one of these, you better be turning it into organic content, even if it's just a summary. Slice it up into social media posts, video snippets. And AI can help, you know. ChatGPT does wonders with a copy paste of a huge transcript. It's wild what it can do. Or you design a custom prompt to input your event transcript and then publish a blog post from it that utilizes your brand tone and all these things that go into a good prompt. Prioritize high ROI channels. You know, Jeremy talked about leaning into what's working and what's showing success. You know, maybe for you, that's email marketing or exploring SEO or improving your SEO, which are often more cost effective than paid advertising. Not always. And of course, you know, understanding the customer journey helps too. And I will say that retargeting for some reason is often overlooked, but we all know it takes multiple touch points or reminders, especially in B2B, through the buying process. So if you got some SEO traffic and it's relevant and good and growing, why not retarget those folks? But do it, you know, respectfully. Don't oversaturate with retargeting. Leverage freelancers or fractional marketing services instead of hiring FTEs. You know, we've got some fractional CMOs on the call today. So that's one option. Freelancers on platforms like Upwork. We also offer fractional marketing services, so you get a team. This, you know, which allows you to access specialized skills without overhead of FTEs. Next slide. Focusing on customer retention. It's something we tend to forget about sometimes when we're busy in the weeds on a certain campaign. You know, acquiring new customers is usually more expensive than retaining existing ones. So always important to think about. Focus on testing and being agile. You know, some of these tests, and then here's where we'll talk about this on the next MLC, where, you know, okay, the finance committee or the CEO or whoever it is wants to perfectly align input with output. Well, sometimes the input needs to be tested, so it takes it takes time to figure out exactly what works, and that doesn't mean it's wasted activity. A failed test, you should always learn something from a failed test. So focus on testing and being agile, trying different things. Create evergreen content, right? Content that remains relevant over time, such as how-to guides or industry best practices. If you do it right and you use, you focus on a strong keyword, you have a strong keyword strategy that's aligned with user intent, and you use a tool like ClearScope or something to optimize the keywords for Google's algorithms, that can last for years with minimal maintenance and provide dividends for your company. Optimize paid media campaigns. I see waste happening here. Just making sure these days, if budgets are tight, that every dollar spent is maximized by A/B testing, adjusting bids, audience targeting, get really granular with who you're targeting exactly, make sure it aligns with your ICP. And there are other ways to, keywords, time of day that ads are shown, things like that. And then use AI for content creation. You can certainly try tools like Jasper and other content generation tools out there. I find them to be lacking, which is why we've in-house, we've spent hundreds of hours writing our own content creation prompts that are highly customizable and allow us to input subject matter expertise and recent trends and statistics and things like that, so that the content is actually interesting and engaging and provides a perspective. But some content generation is better than none, and these tools like Jasper, I don't want to knock them. They can have their place, and of course depends on your industry and things like that. Next slide. Making use of the international talent pool that's out there, either through an outsourcing partner like 08 or via platforms like Upwork. You can even, speaking of AI, you can use that to generate best practices and instructions for your talent. It makes it easier to delegate, like tell this freelancer that this is what my boss wants, copy paste the email, and then, oh, this actually should follow best practices for XYZ. There are ways of generating instructions to help you delegate easier using AI. And making sure your instructions align with best practice and all that. Also, I just like to call out Loom, as something for delegation, or even, if you find your team having a lot of meetings, it can be a great way to just pass on instructions or, debrief someone, something like that. And of course, finding talent, maybe you're strapped for time. You can even hire a freelance recruiter or something like that on Upwork. It's just an idea, trying to give folks ideas here, because I know in some companies things are tight. Conversion rate optimization. It's usually easier to double your leads than it is to double your traffic. Although, maybe AI content creation could be changing the game here. But still, that generally takes longer, right, to double your traffic. So CRO, conversion rate optimization, should always be a focus. Fixing your messaging. I think most people underestimate how important it is for your prospects to understand what you do and why they should care. And most people also overestimate how effective their current messaging is. So considering tools like Winter, who has, they have audience recruitment, participant recruitment for message testing. You can adjust the parameters. That can be a little pricey, but it's also really, really important. Or hiring an agency or someone specialized in messaging. It's really hard to evaluate your own messaging, and I say this as someone who specializes in messaging. Even for me and my own company, there are just blind spots that you have when it's your baby and you're in the weeds. So I think that's really important. And then improve your processes and project management. A lot of waste can happen in meetings, You know, sometimes the Loom video is sufficient. We actually embed instructions into our PM tool. We use Teamwork, you know, right in the task list. So it's easy to swap in a freelancer or do quality control on the processes if something goes awry with the process. Next slide. Oh, that's it. So those are the ideas I had, you know, welcome further questions, conversations, thoughts from folks.
Thank you for that. That's there's a lot to unpack there. So again, if you do want a copy of the slides, just shoot me an email and I'm happy to share those with you. Again, lots of good things to unpack. I'd like to take just a minute in the age of AI and under the umbrella of doing more with less to talk about SEO. We do a lot of SEO, which means we get a lot of inbound inquiries, and I talk to those people. And I talked to someone this week who's like, SEO is stupid. I'm not doing SEO. We just want to do ads. I've learned that Google is an algorithm, and super clever headlines that don't say what you do and don't read like a Google search are not helping you. Can you just give a little color commentary on that, Seth, for people who still
Sure.
think SEO is stupid?
Yeah. Well, I
Well,
think people maybe think SEO is stupid because people may have been in an environment where they're just kind of blogging about whatever they feel like or whatever their boss tells them to do. They're writing kind of a high school paper or something, right? Whereas Google, you know, you want to match user intent. You want to give the page title, have the main keyword in the page title. You know, think about the URL structure. You want to ideally help Google out, right? Like if you've got a pillar topic, that should be / pillar topic, whatever it is, like digital marketing, digital dash marketing, and then subtopic in there. Or if it's blog, then it's digital marketing, you know, organize the URL structures, organize your content hierarchy. Right? Like you can't just do SEO by writing, by pulling up Microsoft Word and writing, right? That's not SEO. You need to have a strategy behind it, a content strategy, you know, thinking about the topics you want to cover. And then you need to have an SEO strategy, like thinking, oh, does this keyword, we're going to target one main keyword topic for this blog article, and it's going to have subtopics, of course, but what is that? And does it have volume behind it? And is it worded in the way that people are actually searching? You know, we have lots of clients that want to, you know, they want to write about their company, and that's all well and good, but you know, people aren't searching for your company unless you have appropriate brand recognition. And even if they are, they're searching for Nike or something like that. They're not searching for our great new solution that we invented, right? They don't know about that yet. So you just have to be strategic and use data-driven decision making to do SEO. Otherwise, it doesn't work, or it's just like gambling or hoping, and hope is not a strategy.
yeah. Oh, that was a great way to end it, by the way. 10 out of 10. That was perfect. I will say, I told you the story, Seth, but I have a neighbor that's in a very complex B2B industry. They do chemical, he's a chemist, they do powder coating for like aerospace and defense, and they lost a big contract to a tiny competitor. The contract was with NASA. And he's like, I don't understand how this happened. I'm like, well, let me just peek under the hood. Let me look at like your website versus the tiny competitor, and let's just see. And the tiny competitor clearly had an SEO strategy in place. Their organic traffic was off the charts. Every headline read like a Google search. And somebody at NASA who was hiring chemical companies to do some kind of powder coating started like we all do with a Google search, and it aligned, and they wound up getting the business. So even in like the most complex B2B businesses, everyone starts the same. And if all of your headlines read like, I'm a writer, so I love a super clever headline, like it brings me joy. But if it doesn't align with what people are trying to understand, or it doesn't say what you do, it's just like it's a waste. So like for me, like one best way to do more with less is to get your headlines in order. I think is a great takeaway. Awesome. And then, go ahead.
I've got to jump in here real quick. This sounds like the exact type of thing that we should be thinking more about and having discussions with our teams, within the organizations, with finance. Because if we're not optimizing the keywords, we could be wasting money on ads. We could have worse results than we should. And here's the thing. I've seen this before where marketing folks don't necessarily look at that until it's too late. It's like, okay, we have to make cuts, major cuts. We're spending a ton on ads, especially anything B2C, e-commerce. We're spending a ton on ads. Obviously, we can cut back. What's really working and what's not? If the audit hasn't been done, then now's the time to do it. So this is definitely an area to take a closer look. All of these things tie together.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And like in B2B, like everyone wants to go to LinkedIn. It's got great targeting. You can target by title. It's fantastic. It's expensive. I have found that it's either feast or famine. Like some people shop, they're looking for certain things on LinkedIn and not for other things. We found like advertising for webinars on LinkedIn has not been super successful. People just aren't interested in that. We do better with organic. But like, that's what you want to do. You want to test, like, don't throw $1 million at it, throw a little bit of money at it, get some data and make decisions based on that data. Definitely the way to go.
And I feel like, when companies are put in these situations where it's like, okay, we got to do more with less, slash the marketing budget, slash the marketing team, whatever it is. And people go into panic mode and they completely gloss over things like, we're not even ranking for the literal things we do on Google. We're not even trying to show up. And then we'll be like, we need paid ads. We need lead. We need appointment setting. We got to do this, and that panic actually leads to subpar results, like kind of dangerous actions on the point of the company, where they end up wasting a lot more money than they should be, rather than just taking a pause and thinking, okay, why are we here now, right? Why are things not working? People don't stop and ask why and think about the strategy sometimes.
I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves here, but businesses, the economy moves in cycles, right? Business moves in cycles, right? There's the birth of the business, the growth, the maturity, the decline. So what we're seeing right now, whatever this is that's going on in the markets, the economy and business, it's not gonna, this too shall pass. So the question is, when it does pass, how ready are we going to be for it? So if we can look at these things now and get ahead of it as much as possible, do more with less now so that we can shine, we're going to be better positioned for when those conditions change.
That's such a good message for marketers and the C-suite, a common language I think that they can have. Like this, this too shall pass, but okay, why are we here now? And how can we be ready when it does pass? Yeah, that's great.
And you guys have said a lot that like data is your friend, even though we're maybe tracking different metrics that we need to get aligned. Helping the C-suite understand that marketing is an investment and not just like, hey, trust me, it's an investment. Like showing like the average time, like the average number of people seeing our website, to people who convert, to people who send a form, to people who that send out like a contact us form. How many of those are convert? Like understanding those numbers and getting the right kind of traffic is so important. Like that's a story that you could tell that makes sense. Like, okay, we need to open the pipeline, but not just like, we don't want just traffic. Like eyeballs do not put food on the table. Like you need to get the right kind of traffic and get it converted.
And that's the thing. Finance folks aren't going to know if they do or not unless they're told. And it might take 1, 2, 3, 10 impressions, and then it does convert. Like those are the conversations we need to have so that when the time is ready, finance can just go out and get the money for what's converting or what will convert. Thinking ahead.
Yeah, you talked about pipeline, Jeremy, and proving marketing's value. Is there anything else we should be thinking about, or maybe we should just like drive that home as far as like, as a marketer in times where marketing budgets are being cut, like People had one takeaway from you, what's the best way to prove marketing's value? What advice would you give?
I think it's being able to make sense of the data so that finance can easily see where investments can be made and where investments can be cut. You know, the simple example of a return on ad spend of 10 within one day, any finance leader would be a fool to not find more money to do more of that, right? And so if we're talking more about different numbers over different amounts of time, yeah, it's a 3-month return and it's only, you know, a 2 or a 5 or a 6. Those are the kinds of things that we should be thinking about. So bit of a long answer, but helping finance to understand what the results are and could be so that they can make sure to get the money or know where to cut when it has to happen. Sometimes there's no choice.
Yeah, that's great. And as somebody that's not a natural analytics person myself, I came up through the creative side. It takes some time to get used to thinking in that way and you know, understanding what you're looking at when you're looking at Google Analytics. Seth, do you have any advice for somebody like getting started in analytics? Like, do you get a fractional help? How if somebody is like a creative that wants to take more of a leadership role and showing the value of investments, doing more with less, how should you start?
Yeah, so actually, you know, back in the day, I would say just dive into Google Analytics and play around with it and look at the reports and learn. I think there are, you know, I think there are a lot of good AI-based tools emerging. One of them that we use is, I'll put the link in the chat, is narrative.bi, which actually gives you some AI-based analytics assessments, and you can hook up HubSpot, you can hook up Google Analytics, Google Ads, whatever it is, whatever marketing channel, and it gives you, you know, takeaways like this search term saw a 200% increase over the last week. You know, it gives you the highlights and helps you pull out some of the data points that, you know, a normal human going through Google Analytics might take a little bit longer to do. So it'll be interesting how AI changes the field of analytics and business intelligence. So I honestly, these days, I might say, hey, start with this cool AI tool that gives you these neat takeaways. And then once you want to dig in, you know, you can get familiar with Google Analytics. I still think GA4 is kind of a mess, you know. And I might even say forget GA for now, just install this AI thing and then get an account with SEMrush and look, you know, use that as kind of your analytics for how your website is doing, and then get something like HubSpot and use that for you know, other metrics that are relevant to the business. Just put GA4 to the side for now. Don't start with GA4. I think that's a nightmare unless you're a really analytical person.
Awesome. I would like to mention too, if anyone has questions, you could just unmute or put them in the chat or raise your hand, whatever you're comfortable doing. Welcome that kind of two-way. As we're doing that, Seth, one of the things I'd like to talk about in addition to SEO, and honestly, it's not super fast. It doesn't happen in a day, but it does work. We found like we tripled our own inbound traffic. Can you talk a little bit about CRO, conversion rate optimization, which I think is so often overlooked? You know, you get people to your site and then we got to ask the next question. Then what?
Yeah.
Happy to do that. So CRO, you know, kind of depends on you having your go-to-market strategy and messaging together, right? Like, of course you can fake it until you make it, right? But generally we want to have some idea of like, okay, you're selling these products and this is a general message. These are how you categorize the products or the services and how you're positioning them. But once you have that in place, CRO is great at testing different messaging variations or layouts or design changes, changing the visual hierarchy of the page, changing the call to action to figure out what converts, right? And with CRO, there's a lot of, there's like beginner CRO mistakes, which people test the color of a button, or people test, very small changes that don't necessarily make sense, or kind of a waste of time, or maybe aren't even statistically significant. So with CRO, you need enough traffic, you need a certain understanding of what motivates humans to take the next action, whether that action is a scroll down the page, reading from line 1 to line 2, looking at a value proposition and deciding, oh, okay, that resonates with me. Yeah, it's such a huge topic, but basically it's, using best practices for messaging and layout, UX, calls to action, things like that you just kind of build up and know from reading and research. And then testing those heuristic assessments, or those evaluations, because you're wrong sometimes. You're human and you want to be data driven, right? So running an A/B test where you split traffic and change this section of the page or this whatever it is, and then you pick a winner, and then the winner is what's deployed onto the website and stays permanently.
Yeah. There's a lot to take in to get it right, and CRO is really complex. Maybe that question wasn't quite fair, but since you mentioned it earlier, I wanted to bring it up. And it's one of the things I've learned is I've read a couple of books on neuromarketing. It's just how the brain works and how the brain makes decisions and how eyes track. Those things are predictable, and those are things that you can work with. I'm going to just share my screen. I put this actually meme in our Slack channel today. Are you seeing you will read this first? Yeah. I'll just give you a second. Like, this is true. This is how the brain functions. And it's so simple, but it's true. So what you want people to do is to not work too hard to get your messaging, right? Like, to make it in a way that the brain expects, like first thing first. Should also be, so that Google knows that it's the most important thing. So it's working for both the human brain and the Google algorithm. And I think that's really cool. Okay. So as we do have a couple minutes if we want to go into quick breakout rooms. But before we do that, I want to take a moment to thank both of our speakers, Seth and Jeremy. Jeremy, any final takeaways, any final thoughts before we go into breakouts?
Going back to what Seth was just talking about, conversion rate optimization, it's cuts to marketing that lead to affecting the funnel and ultimately killing conversions in the future that the companies really don't want to make. But unless marketing speaks up and says this is going to hurt the future, then there's not much else sometimes that can be done. So definitely have those conversations. We're on the same team when we're talking about these types of things, and that's how we'll get through it together.
That's a great point, that we're all on the same team, and to open up the conversations internally is super, super helpful. And that's how you get to a better solution. Thank you so much, Jeremy. Seth, any final takeaways on doing more with less?
Good luck. It's hard out there, but I think be strategic. Take a breather and try to think, okay, how's the strategy? Maybe ask ChatGPT some questions. I have this concern or this idea. If you want this kind of sum of human knowledge to back you up a little bit, like use AI in these situations that you find yourself struggling and, you know, get some new ideas, try something out.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Great advice. I actually a bunch of people said thank you, and I have to drop off. So we actually have a small room that we could, this could be a breakout room.
Okay.
Jill, I haven't heard any questions from you. You've always got, but I know you've always got one.
You know it. I try to keep quiet and sit on my hands,
Oh,
not raise them so other people can contribute. But yeah, you know, it's just great. Jeremy, your delivery is so wonderful, and Seth, always lots of ideas. So thank you. One thing I started thinking about too was I guess it maybe hit a spot too, Seth, when you said, you know, GA4 is tough, and then you had ideas like maybe we just do SEMrush, and it's like I was just talking to a client today, and we were complaining about the various platforms that we all have to use, and so I don't know if you have any tips for that, because I feel like when you, whether it's your budget or your time, and time is money, streamlining, that just seems to be a thing for me that I'm struggling with, because I have to speak to clients that have different platforms, like some are Teams users and this and that. So anything there that do you feel like, you know, as an agency, you guys see a lot of different platforms and you probably have the capabilities to maybe use more, but from a small, you know, marketing, like a single marketing director team, small teams, anything there that you think would be super efficient or effective? Either Jeremy or Seth, go for that.
I wish I had an answer.
Do you know what I'm saying? And the pain point here is, it's like, my time is money. And if I'm toggling between all these different platforms and tabs, and I just want one solution, you know, is it the HubSpot? Is it, you know, for everything? I don't.
HubSpot's as close as you're gonna get, probably, for all the things marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah, all in one.
You know, I would say, you know, just to take that opportunity, I don't have an answer, but when we're talking about like Zoom or Teams or something else, Google Meet, I just yesterday said to someone, I wish there was a way of making the same, an easy way, the same background and settings on all of the different apps, right? So similar thinking, right? But I think that when we're talking about one unifying concept, that's one of the problems we're seeing now with budgeting and AI and all these other solutions. People rush to these solutions thinking, okay, yeah, we can just cut our marketing budget and staff and do this new thing. And it might work short term, but then it ends up, you know, things change. So I don't know that there's an all-in-one solution, or could be one, because eventually it would change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. And we don't want to take people out of the equation either. Like you're saying, you know, we're all in the room because we're marketing people. And, you know, as much as we want to use the AI tools, I want to use them to be leaner and meaner in my work, so that they help me write that document quicker and I can turn it around and do more. But, you know, still, I'm never going to send it to somebody with just an AI generation. I'm going to look at it and I'm going to be strategic on the first, before I even start putting it in that generator. And that's, you know, that's with all of this too, whether it's a you know, platform that helps us, or it still needs our skills on it, I guess is my point.
And
Yeah.
getting the prompt right for AI is I think where I spend like a lot of time just trying to like, okay, feed it all of the context that it needs. And sometimes we'll spit it out. I'm like, oh, I missed something. Well, could you do it again, but also take this into consideration, take this into consideration. You know, here's some additional data points. It's it is a time saver, but for me, it's like, I got to get the prompt exactly right before I get even a first draft.
Well, yeah, like any tool, we can't just start using it without some downtime of learning it and expect efficiencies.
The Uber driver I mentioned from yesterday, he's starting to see people come back and say, you know, I just don't know what to do at this point. Like the automation is automated, but then what? What happens after that? Who do I go to?
Yeah.
Right?
Who's going to review it? Who's going to see if it really is what you need?
That's right.
Okay, well, we have a couple couple minutes. Crystal or Dean, did you want to say hi or have contribute anything, ask anything?
I didn't have any questions. I was just soaking up all the information. Some of the things that you all touched base on, I was just amazed by it because of the insight. So I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Sure thing.
Thanks for engaging.
Yeah, it's great to meet you.
Likewise, likewise. Good stuff. Okay, all right. Thanks, folks. Let's
Everybody,
call it.
see you next time.
Have a good one. See ya.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.